Alright, complete printed circuit board design using Orcad capture layout, Nunez, and that's Craig Mitzner, and we're on chapter 7, making, editing, capturing parts. Making, editing, capture parts. Capture provides many libraries for the parts that can either build your schematic, perform simulation to generate PCB board layouts, however we will need to make for your own parts at some point. There are a couple of ways of working with part libraries. You can build with a custom parts and save them existing with or new libraries to modify with existing parts, save them to a library, or modify the same parts just to a specific project. Whether you decide to build with a custom parts or modify existing ones, you need to know about the libraries, the different ways of making parts, how the different parts are packaged, the type of the pins used in the different parts, and how to connect them properly with the board layout and simulation purposes. The capture part layouts. In full version of the capture, there are 141 part libraries in the capture library, 108 piece spice libraries, 34 libraries of the main capture library. Each library contains many parts. As mentioned in chapter 2, the 2-part libraries are supplied with software, both of which are coupled with the capture folder. One type of the parts and piece spice folders are located inside of the capture library folder. The parts are located immediately inside of the capture library folder with the schematics. Parts of it do not have footprints of the piece spice models associated with them, but the parts are located in the capture piece spice folder have the piece spice model with the footprints associated with them. The purpose of the board layout, but it does not matter from whether the library selected the part, because it's simple matter with assigning with changing a footprint with regards to the library it came from, and assigning the piece spice simulation capabilities to a part is another matter of it altogether to discuss later in this chapter. The library is fairly well labeled. Most cases, the particular part with the relatively easy, however, in some overlap between some of the library, especially with the piece spice library, which can be searching with the parts that generally less than straightforward. For example, the MOSAF, the ET with the transistor can be found with a discrete OLB library, or the Fairchild library with the Infine XO library, Infine on XOL library series library with the JPWRMOSOL library, to name a few. Some of the libraries contain a mixture of the part analog developer OLB library contains amplifier multipliers, multiplexers, while others contain only certain types of parts of the Fairchild OLB only of the FETs. So at the time may have the search manually through the library to find the part. The first place at the beginning of the search to open the piece spice library list of the library _ list of the PDF located with the library list of the folder with the Orcad doc path, library list of all the Orcad parts in 2 sections. First section lists the part with the device type of the second section by the part library. With the PDF search tool, you can quickly search for the entire library list at all 1,123 pages. If you cannot find part of the library list of the actual parts of the library, you may be able to download parts models from the internet with the several semiconductors manufacturer generated with their own parts of the model provided with a free charge from the website. If you cannot locate the ready-made part, you'll need to make your own. Highly recommend that you make your own folders and libraries saved with your parts, and rather than adding parts to the library supplied with the software instruction on how to create the capture part with the piece spice model with the provided below. You can find additional information on the subject and the piece capture piece slice user guide in the document folders on the frequent asked questions section of the Orcad website. Type of the packaging. Inside one package, there could be one or more parts of the parts can all be the same, homogeneous, or other parts can be different. With a heterogeneous, either type of the part with a passive or active. Homogeneous parts show example the homogeneous package of the single bipolar junction transistor and the digital integrated circuit for identical and NAND gates. Negative AND gates. In both cases, the other parts are with the package. Figure 7.1 shows a homogeneous one or more identical parts leakage. You have ABs as your in your gates, voltage constant, current ground, and 1 through 7 pins, 1, 8, and 14. Are identical even if they are only one. All the gates for the integrated circuit are active. They have to share the 2 power pins other than 14. Homogeneous parts can be placed independently in schematic. Setting up of the gates and share the power pin schematic level. The board level is addressed below. Heterogeneous parts shown. An example of a heterogeneous pack with a package have 3 parts which can be played with independently on the schematic. 1 relay coil with the 2 sets of contacts A and B, although the power applied with the coil with one or more of the contacts passive of the device, it does not have the power plant, strictly speaking. Alright, pins. When making parts, capture video will use the PCB design layout and perform simulation from the piece part. The one with the most important issue of the making of the new parts are properly handling the pins. All of the other lines make up the upper part of the cosmetics. However, the pins are assigned with a determinative. You give the design rule, check the rule errors when checking your schematic. If you have the PCB laid out correctly, if the design was simulate correctly, there are 8 different types of pins. Each pin has a pin number, a pin name, and an order of the name. Each of the pins have specific character to determine how it performs in package, regardless of what it looks like in the schematic, how the judge during the design rule checks, how routing is governed in layout, etc. Additionally, you can assign a pin with a character to determine whether the pin looks like one part placed in the schematic with a table 7-1, show the summary of the pin types and shape of the visibility options. With regard to the PCB layout with the pin type, with the assembly power pins, with the non-power pins, any of the other type of the power pins, especially handling because of the global nature. For example, it needs to be considered if any of the power pins shared between the parts within one package will be visible on all parts if the connection with the global net and with the non-global net. These examples of how to deal with the pins are given below. Figure 7-1 show the pin types and attributed power ground, 3-state, bidirectional, open collector, open emitter, input, output, in, passive, clock, dot, clock, line, short and zero length, end pins, numbered pins, name, the pins itself. Part editing tools. Before we make any parts, we'll take a quick look at the part editing tools. Select the tools and settings. Select tool with the select the tool. Select the pin with the text and graphic object lines, arcs, or etc. Select the object by clicking them and dragging the box around across around the object area. Select the description below. Snap the grid with the function. Actually, the course for the fine setting with the never actually fully disable the sampling function. The snap of the grid function is active. The core setting you can play with the move of the objects only with the 1/10 of the units increment. Use the default, but the grid function is not active with the fine spacing setting. You can play with the move of the objects at 100 of the unit increments, except when working with graphics, and snap to the grid should always be active. The areas to select objects can be selected by following the enclosing the object selection box with the select with the tools with the just intersect with the object selection box. Using the full enclosed method is a handy selecting object surrounded by many closed allocated objects. The pin tools show the place pin tool located. Use the place pin with that part one time and place a pin array tool. The array tool simultaneously places multiple pins as part of the 16-bit output with the part over the microcontroller. Array tool enables you to establish a base name with a common of all the pins automatically number each pin chronologically. Your graphics tool is to place the line tool. The line tool is used to place the singular orthogonal diagonal line segment, place polyline tool. Polyline tool, you have the multiple segment lines. Lines are orthogonal by default. Can be made with the diagonal and hold down shift key with the keyboard while drawing the line. Place the rectangular tool. You have the place close the rectangular parallelogram. Place ellipse tool. You have the circles and ellipses. Arc tool. You have the construct the arcs and circles, and place text tool. You have the place text objects which have font, color, rotation, signal settings. You zoom to zoom in with the set and increments. You can use the press of the I button on the keyboard to zoom in from the view menu, or zoom out with the increments. You can use the button OK with the keyboard, zoom out with the view menu. Alright, zoom to region. You have the tool to zoom in the particular region for the design, dragging the box around with the area that wants to zoom to all. You have the tool to see with the entire design, construction capture parts. The reform method is construct with the capture, draw with the area with the mess with the complete with the capture line manager with the floor with the initiate with the piece by the model editor with the finish with the capture line manager. The PCB footprints with the be assigned any of the part of the regardless for the area with the script with the footprints for the time with the part with the first construct with the down sign until later when the parts are actually even in the design. Method for the capture library manager, design menu, new part, design menu, the new part for the spreadsheet tool menu, generate part, method the piece by model editor, follow menu capture, create capture parts, you the capture library manager, modify the part appearance. Some of the do show the method that how the part will be the procedure for each of the methods described below. Later in this chapter, you'll show them how to make with the download piece by models, which converted with the capture parts of the methods of 3 and 4. Method 1, construct parts with the new part option with the design menu. For the construction part with the new part option with the capture with the demonstrator through the 3 design example. First example, you with the design with the homogeneous part. The first will be the transfer of the single part with the passive device. For the second will be the operational amplifier multi-part active device with shared power pins. For the third example, there will be heterogeneous multi-part path with the device. Design example, the path of the homogeneous part. With the first design example, the transfer of the inner core with the second single primary with the channel with the tap secondary with the transformer and its schematic representation from figure 7 7-3 with the beginning of the capture for the session frame negative 8 to the file with new library as shown figure 7-4 to the window open the capture library menu select with the library icon 7-5A with the then select with the new part with the design menu 7-5B with the right click on the select with the new part with the pop-up menu. 7-3 show the single homogeneous transformer schematic. Then show the 7-4 show the start of the new part with the new capture library. New part property dialog box will open in figure 7-6 with the enter for the name of the part with the and for example the XFR, MSI, P, CT, whatever, and the T reference prefix for the enter for the PCB foot button design or now. Leave the parts per packet with the one as one package type of the homogeneous select with the part number, the numeric with the check with the pin number visible if you want for the pin number to be visible on the schematic. You can change with the layer if you're not sure for the footprint or will be okay, but the part editing window will open with a dotted line outline showing figure 7-7 with a dotted box defined with the boundary of the part with the pins placed on the boundary described below and the text and graphic placed on the boundaries. Inside of the boundaries you can also add a picture of the Institute Electrical Electronic Engineer symbol that is desired. Default grid is 0.1 times 0.1 inches. Upper left hand corner at 0.0 with the default with the graphic object with the play with the grid with the snap grid setting with the change and toggling snap the grid on and off. The default grid is shown in dots but then shows your file hierarchy library, new part properties, your new part shown part editing windows. You can chain with the align with the desire with the chain with the grid save with the navigate with the option preference from the menu bar. Select with the grid display tab showing figure 7 and 8 show the display part symbol the grid properties with the right side with the dialog box. And this show the preferences inside of the grid display inside of the preferences box, which is open from options. First step to make with the transformers to make with the part of the 0.4 width for the Y with the 0.6 inches tall with the for comparison resistant analog watt is 0.2 to 0.2 inches. Not good with the pin length with the side of the part outline length with the clock. Click on the dotted board, but then click on hold one with the corner square handles. Drive with the corner reach out with the box. Next step of the add pin with the make with the transformer 5 leads add with the pins of the part. Toggle the pin tool and place pin dialog box showing figure 7 and 9 will be displayed. 7 and 9 show the place pin. After you've used the place pin button, it will show the place pin number that you have the name, shape, name and type, number and type, with scale your bus, and pin visible, OK, cancel, user properties, and help. Short with the pin shape of the path with the pin type, with a click OK with the first shape with the 2 pin with the left side of the board, with position 0.01, 0.0, 0.1, 0.5 primary winding leads with 3 pins with the right side with 0.4, 0.1, 0.4, 0.3, 0.5. 0.4, 0.5 for the secondary wide links. A quick place with the pins with the press escape key with the keyboard. Right click and select with the end command with the pop up with the place tool. Automatically increment the name and the under number of each of the pin in its place. Change with the number of the name and the number of the pin. Double click with the pin with bring it to the pin properties dialog box, which look for the place pin dialog box. Changes necessary simultaneously. Change the properties of the multiple pins. Holding down with the control key. Left click each of the pin. Select more than one pin. Right click within select edit properties from the pop up menu. Browse spreadsheet with the dialog box showing figure 7 to 10 will be displayed. More than one pin must be selected to get the spreadsheet, but the other way with the pin property dialog box will display with the pin type, pin length self with the drop down list allowed with the display with the desired pin property for the other column with the required with the other value of the manual with the number, the name of the same of the settings with the pin property dialog box name, pin flexibility, pin numbers you assign with the capture parts must match with the pad name with the layout footprint with the PCB layout, the consider with the pin order with the irrelevant. The pin order is extremely important with the piece by however the will be discussed in method in 3 and 4 below. Show the browse spreadsheet with the OK cancel new copy and then have location, order number, name, the type of the clock, dot or pin length. Those are browse spreadsheet. Next step of the place for the graphic to build with the transformer code with the turn the snap grid off and the turn the toggle with the button but the turn so that it turns red. Select the place arc tool, arc will be defined with the 3 points in figure 7 and 11. The first point click to define with the center of the arc. Second point defined with the arc. Start with the third point with defined with the end of the arc of the drum with the counterclockwise the 2 point and the 3 point with the location point with the 2 pin. Point 2, it depends on whether direction we want the arc to pay for the. After you play for the first couple of the arcs, you can copy and pay for the rest. And play with the 2 copy of the graphic object. Select the toggle, select tool, and select object you want to copy. Left click on once for the select with a single object with the and give the control left click with the select with the multiple copy objects. Copy and pay for the object with your own figure 7 for the 13. You give the typical Windows copy and paste for the technique. You can use the left click at once for the selected object with the hold down with the control key. Left click with the hold the part with the drag with the duplicate part out of the first with the release of the mouse button, place the copy, and then release the control key. Next, play with the two parallel lines between the arc representing the core of the use of the place line tool with the draw of them. You can make with the dots with the dot coil, indicate the use of the place part of ellipse tool, or draw a small circle with the near the end of one of the coils. Then hit with the escape key to exit the drawing mode. Change the circle to fill with the dot. You can edit your filled graph with the dialog box shown figure 7 and 12. With the display with the dialog box, select the tool, select with the circuit, then right click, select the circle, and then right click, and then select edit properties from the pop up. You can leave with the line style, but you can change with the fill style, cells to solid, or click OK. And then we're looking at the edit fill, graphic fill style, line style, width, and 712, and then in 713 we're completing the parts of the pin name with the number visible. We now have the transformer with a pin number and a pin name. Figure 7 to 13 show the transformer design. Note with the pin numbers of the pin with the outside boundary, pin name with the inside of the boundary with the graphic numbers. Grab with the graphics. You can use the property dialog box, change the visibility with the pin numbers of the pin. Figure 7 to 14 is with the user property dialog box, part of the properties option below. Options menu. You with the user property dialog box, make with the pin the name of the numbers invisible. You can change with the visibility of the pin numbers using. So now you have the 714, you have the property dialog box, properties, then you have the use of the A, the property, H of the user property dialog box, part properties, B show the edit property dialog box, the package properties, the check box with the edit property, part property dialog box shown 714, B, the display with the edit part property dialog box, select with the package properties with the option menu, with the completed part and shown figure 715. Completed homogeneous part with the pin name with the numbers is not visible. Final task is save with the new part with the library is new with the save of the part, true with the part editing window, and click yes, save with the change of the part with the name prompt, save with the library, select with the library icon property manager, right click and save with the as from the pop-up, and save with the library with the new name of the user library, and capture library path. Design an example of the active multi-part with the homogeneous component. The second example shows how to control for the dual amp, the dual op amp for the component shown figure 716 with the parts identical with the homogeneous shape of the power pins. 716 fill the dash sheet with the diagram of the dual amp with the component show the begin as you would did with the transfer the new library for the file menu with the capture session frame of the library with the into icon library manager, right click with the select with the new part with the pop of the new part property dialog box showing 716. So now we're in a new part reference for the new name part frame of the PCB footprint crib with the convert view of the multiple part package parts per package type homogeneous heterogeneous part number and your extension A with the pin number visible. Okay, part cancel part assembly and part alias attaching implementation help. Alright, name for the op menu, make a U with the part with the preference, reshape the chain with the parts of the package, per package 2, leave with the package type with the homogeneous assign alphabetic part number to make the pin number visible, click OK when you're finished. In part editing window, make the part of the border 0x4 of 0x4 inches, make the triangular body of the op amp using the place line of the tool, figure 7 and 18. Now we have the dual op amp matters, show the amp as a triangle and then positive and negative 1, 2, 3 in, out, and values. Using the place pen tool with the plating place in figure 7 and 18 with the label, the place pens with the part with the A dash sheet figure 716. You can either correctly name the name of each pen as you play with the place it, replace all of the pins, and then go back with the fix of the name of the numbers after they have all been replaced. Whichever the method you would set with the pin character is shown figure 7 and 19. Remember the chain with the name of the number over the pin, double click of the pin with the bring up of the pin property dialog box, chain with the property with the multi-pin simultaneously holds down with the control key, left click on each pin, select more than one pin, click with the right click with the select edit properties pop-up menu with the finally add a short graphical line between up amp body and power pins using the replacing line tool. You will need to turn the snap grids off the snap grid. To do this, remember to turn snap grid back on when you're finished with the graphics. As you can see with the figure 7 and 18, the op amp looks cluttered because of the pin names run into each other. Does not have optimally spaced with respect to each of the pins. You can fix this by making the pins not visible, adding your own text that you would turn the pins names off the same and the pins name visible to false. User property dialog box from the options part properties menu, place the text tool with the place line tool add. Now show for the spreadsheet with the location order, the name of the type of the clock of the dead dot and pin length. That's the pin characteristic part A of the dual op amp with negative positive signs placed with negative input, positive input pin names. Text name of the power pin with an indicator of the positive supply pin with a negative supply pin with the time being with the complete parts with the recoupled way with the get to part B to view with the specific part with the multi-device. Go to view menu, select with the package C with both of the parts are shown figure 720 with a double click on the U, question mark B with the alternatively you can select next. And then figure 720 shows the package view of the dual op and part. Previous part with the view menu with the control with the plus N or B with the keyboard with the toggle through with the parts. Once you have the part B with the editing window, select all the pins, then set with the parameters and show in figure 721 using the procedure described above. 721 shows pin character for the part B with the dual amplifier, assigning power pins visibility. If you compare 719 with 721, see with the figures part A and B, the share pins 4 and 8, and show with the power pins with the required special handling to make with the parts looking functionally proper between capture piece by the layout with the type of the visibility share pin for the power with the visible with the power, the non-visible, the non-power, visible with the digital parts, usually share with the non-visible power with the pins, and while actually active the analog parts typically share with the either visible pins with the non-power type of the pins, such input with the passive pins, which always are visible with the type of the visible with the initially established with the part level of the library with the but you can change the parameters at the schematic level after you have placed them into the design. So show the method of changing the parts of the property of the schematic. Each of the methods is slightly different in effect with the add of the combination possibility settings of the various method settings with which you find the area of over about 200 possible combinations. Some of the combinations conserve the errors that will prevent from the creating of the net list of the other various type of the warnings. Some of the other with the non-errors but with the follow the route correctly with the board will discuss all 200 plus combination here, but we will look at the various scenarios in chapter 9. However, for now, to keep this simple with the follow the typical convention will need to make shared power pins visible power pins since they are analog parts. Set of power pins property select with the pin A with the right click with the select with the property pop-up with the double click with the pin, bring over the pin property dialog box figure 7 to 9 example to make sure the pin visible box with the edge checked an option is available only for the power pins, although the other types of pins are always visible. If you use user property dialog box option parts property, you can see with the only visibility pins or numbers are not visibly with the pin itself. The complete op amps are shown figure 722. See for the parts as described above. And when you put the parts to share pin with the schematic, then create with the layout net list, you may get it the morning warning. MNL0016 duplicated pin number on LM324. If a part was constructed properly, you can ignore the warning. Design example of the path of the heterogeneous part. In the design example, we will make pass for the heterogeneous name of the double pole with the double throw of the relay. As shown in figure 723 relay, consists of the 3 parts of the 2/7 identical double throw contact with the operating coil with the clamping diode. Okay, figure 27 shows the heterogeneous multi-relay package relay schematic. By navigating the file of the new library with the caption section with the describe the samples above, select with the library icon, the new part of the either the design menu with the pop-up after the right icon, fill out with the new part property dialog box shown figure 724. Make sure that the 3 parts of the per package with the select with the heterogeneous. Now you have the new part reference, the part reference prefix, the PCB footprint create converter, pick with the multi-package parts per package, heterogeneous parting name, parting number, alphabet, numeric pin number visible, and then it shows the other on and off buttons. Package type with the click OK with the from the view menu with the package view with the make sure that you have all 3 parts with the construct with the relay, clamp coil with the clamping dial with the K question mark 1. Bring up K question mark 1 and edit with the window with the double click with the K question mark 1. If you have the package view with the control with the end with the keyboard with the toggle through the part view, reside with the low border over the 0.3 inch with the wide with the 0.6 inches tall with the using figure 725 with the guide you with the place the pins. On the top of the plate for the 2 pins with the left side of the part of the board with the define with the 2 pin with the number 2 with the name C plus with the bottom pins and numbers for the number 6 with the number 6 C negative. Make both of these pins short on the path of the line with the make with the name of the non-visible place line with the place arc with the tool with the add with the coil with the die with the pod with the graphic with the part with the describe with the previous example. Reading too loud. Alright, I'll get it. Alright, the next step is to add the first context toggle part K question mark 2 with size border 0.4 to wide 4 inches by 0.6 inches tall. Use figure 726 as a guide to add 2 pins right side of the border on one on the left. Select pin parameters and show in figure 726B. Make the pin names non-visible. Use the place line tool to add pole with the lines leading with the pin to the throws contacts. Figure 728 shows the schematic. B shows pin setting first set of relay contacts. Use the place polyline tool to draw the throws so they can make either the solid fill with either the shift key with the make diagonal polygons. After you set the triangles down, double click on it with the bring up the edit fill graphic dialog box and set the fill to solid. Once you have the poles and throws Contact assembly with the K question mark 2. Finish copy to pay for the graphic minus the K question mark 3. The copy over the piece of the one time, hold down with the control key and with the keyboard, select each line with the polyline one at a time. Once you have them all, select with the right click and select with the copy to pop up with the selected copy from the edit menu with the use control C with the keyboard. Go to the next part, K to question mark 3. By typing Control plus N on the ear of the keyboard, then pay for the copy of the graphic to empty part of the outline. Right click with the select with the paste from the pop up of the select paste from the edit menu. You can use Control V on your keyboard. Add the repins you for the placement and add them for the previous parts. So like the pin parameters shown figure 7-27. And see with the notice order start with a 0 for each of the order parts. The order of the pins is concerning only with the parts to be within piece-by-piece method model for the performing simulation will address the issue for the next concept. We've completed the completed part multi-part relay shown figure 728. When you play for the relay with the capture schematic, you for the part drop-down list shown figure 729. Play with the parts desired in multi-part package. Shows browse specification, location, order number, name, and the type of the clock dot pin length M123 and its pin parameters. 728 for the package view for the completed heterogeneous relay. You have the transistor value and throw switches. Alright, method 2, construction part of the capture view for the design spreadsheet. View the method multi-part pack with a similar first method except to define all of the pin pubs of the following view of the spreadsheet shown figure 730 with the new parts for the spreadsheet with the generated with a heterogeneous package for the default, but you can use it to make homogeneous part of the parts of the design and define as heterogeneous, but will be homogeneous the fact that there are no difference between the parts. Construct a part you for the design spreadsheet, opening existing capture library that you add that you want to add a part to the describe of the new library described as above in the library manager. Select with the library icon, select the new part from the spreadsheet option, which you can either do for the design menu from the pop-up menu with the right clicking on the library icon. Now you have the place part with the part list, the library graphic numbers, and the preview window with the packaging parts and part type, part and type. OK, cancel, add, remove, part, search and filter, help. Then you have the new part creation spreadsheet, part name, number of sections, part per reference, prefix, part number, numeric, alphabetic, number, name, type, shape, the pin group, position, in section A. Add pins, delete pins, save, cancel, and help. The new part creation spreadsheet. The spreadsheet will initially be blank with the add pin number, the parameter set with the need of the parts per requirement of the pin setting with the figure 730 will generate with the part identically with the dual op of the amp. This will design example of the figure 716 with the notes for the pins 4 and 8 were added twice, once for each of the part is defined and share with the power pins. For the after pin parameters have been entered within the spreadsheet with the click save button and the information shown in the figure 731 will be displayed letting you know the warning because of the duplicated pins. You view the warnings, click OK, continue to view these parts. Now you see the new part creation warning. Figure 732 show the package view of the parts generated by the spreadsheet by default, with the parts initially represented with a symbol block with arrows to the left. Although you have left to do with this point to the modify with the graphics to make for the amps cosmetically correct. With the inhomogeneous op amp example above, all parts are automatically made identical when you made with the graphic in one part. Since the heterogeneous part of the default, but you cannot change it, you will have to modify with the graphics on each and every part individually. Delete the boxes within the top of the dotted outline with the added graphics as described in previous op amp example. 732 show the packaging view for the new parts you generated using spreadsheet. What we have is the 2-3 in plus in voltage constant current and energy efficient. Method 3, constructing parts with the generated part from the tools menu. With the method to create with the new part with the parts with the piece-by-piece model with the library or with the capture parts with the parts with the schematic entry. Piece-by simulation, the PCB layout is designed with a footprint 2 with the method of the piece-by-piece method model library or a functional schematic design needs to be pre-existing. Section below with the trouble method of developing and obtaining the piece-by-piece library and functional schematic designs are described. For the time of being, we will go ahead under the assumption that piece-size library is available so the part creation process is kept separate from library schematic creation process. Or you can generate a part net list, source file, net list file type, part name, destination part, create a new part, pick symbol manually, sort pins, extended or descending order, add pins, update pins, existing part library, browse, and retain alphabetic name, pin numbers, implementation type, implementation name, and pipe file. Beginning with the start of the new capture library, open existing library with the capture session with the frames for the file menu with the start with the library icon, select the generate part from the tools menu with the then generate with the part dialog box will pop up showing figure 733. Piece by model library with the or capture schematic design, if appropriate from the net source lib file type list, and then select with the library or design from the net source list. Make sure the destination part library with the path name are what you want. The library has the OLB extension. Make sure the create with the new option to check for the click OK. After the create capture, you have completed importing a library design file with you selected. You should see the list of the parts library manager for the capture library you're working with was the original empty with the new parts will be located directly under the library icon design resource file. But if the library had already some parts in it, and the new parts and copies of the previous existing parts will add both of the library icon library folder under design resource folder. Figure 734, in which the example of the breakout library will be added with the analog P library with library folder will also contain the duplicate. So you keep this one and the original library, added library, and copy the original library. Copy added from the library. Over the library icon, this will allow you to copy able to delete parts of the to and from the new library once you've satisfied with the parts that contain the library icon under the design resource file. You can delete the duplicate the library icon parts of the library folder will keep you with the library with the design resource folder. Once you finish adding over the parts of the library, you can have the add parts of the pins of the links to footprints using capture part editor with the part with the package of the property dialog box for the design menu to discover the previous example. The final save it and close for the library. You can now use the library and part of the new design for the schematic entry simulation with the PCB layout. Alright, method 4, generating part for the piece with the piece by model editor. You can with the piece by model with the editor capture make of the capture parts of the beginning either the schematic with the design circular simulation with the PC layout. With the difference between the piece by model editor and the generator part. Method 3 is that you work directly on the piece by model with the model editor. So with the piece by model editor, go to start with the all programs Orcad 10.5 space spice accessory model editor. You will begin with a blank model editor session window for the open existing piece by library is named .plib. Navigating the Orcad Tools Piece library and opening the file with a menu. Select one of the libraries, Evangelist Evolution Library. Click on the open and then select one of the method model lists. Figure 735 show the BG transistor. And now we're looking at a BJT transistor. Model Evolution Library with the model list window. If the plane selects the simulation model with the contained library, tells you what the primitive model with the subcircuit model over the text menu window over the right of the model list display with the code with the describe of the model. You construct with the new model by using the existing model listing with example of the model description and with the found with a piece by with the reference guide with the PSP C reference.pdf around the Orcad document folder following specification section to describe how to download primitive model with the models beginning with .model. The internet, how to create your own subcircuit model with the models beginning with the subcircuit. Models can be added with the piece by the library from which you can generate captured library parts as described below with the creating custom primitive models and not described here. Generating capture part library with from piece spice model library. Beginning with the piece-spice model library.lib, open the model editor, similar figure 735, select with the create capture parts from model editor file menu. You'll be presented with the create parts for a library dialog box showing 736 to enter the input model. You're entering input model library, entering output model library, and then library text with the browse button with the piece-spice library.x wildcard library for with the make part with the second browse with the specify the location new with the capture library wildcard OLB. Remember the piece-spice model with the libraries contained when they usually store with the Orcad Tools piece-spice library path. While capture parts with the model is stored with the Orcad Tools capture library's piece-spice path. Click OK once you have the input and output libraries path specified. Alright, capture part library note already exists with the tool capture libraries piece by with the evolution piece by with the model eval library evaluation library is here with the demonstrator the purpose of the performance of the following proceed with the existing library the with the new library with the temporary with the folder do not overwrite with the existing library. When the model editor is finished, it will display the information box similar to the one in figure 737 of the model editor except for the generated with the capture part library. The last line will say the zero error messages, zero warning message. Click over the information box. PSpice model editor generated with the capture part with the correctly named of the numbered pins. Under the parts will be generic boxes because of the PSpice model editor describes only and how part function, not what they look like. You will need to use the capture part editor to modify the graphic appearing with the part that described with the earlier example. To view the new part library, start capture, select open library, file menu, capture session frames. Make and obtain the PSpice making new capture parts. Before you send a final board design with the manufacturer, you will see at some point with the design process that will simulate with the design the detailed explanation. PSpice with the model of development and simulation property outside of the scope of the text of the main reference available with the subject. Put in button insert for the completeness of the brief explanation how to add PSpice with the model for the capture parts that will be discussed here. PSpice contains many libraries, but manufacturers continually design a new part of the window not included with the version of the PSpice with the web, so eventually you will need to add develop your own capture part for the simulation capabilities, then you ultimately will use the board design. PSpice library contains primitive model with the positioner diode, subcircuit with the model with the logic gate with the op amp with the primitive model with the models are basically limited to behavior description, single device, subcircuit with the model with the describe the behavior, single device, multi-device, complete circuit designs usually specifically noted to the model in text reference both primitive subcircuit mode in general. With regard to the PSpice model, libraries contain begin as a simple text file with a mod extension. The model is added to the library by importing into the PSpice library. Once the model is imported into the library, the original model file is no longer needed and can be deleted and archived in a separate folder. Downloading libraries and models from the internet. The easiest way to make a new PSpice model library is to download with the manufacturer website with the when available. You can often download the complete library. Sometimes operational OEM provide with the individual model with added with their own libraries. Here, example, some of you will use the RS2A with a fast recovery diode incorporation. Your design with the, needs a PSpice model, but you're going with the diode with the incorporated website with the diodes.com product spice model with the index PHP. You can obtain the model with the RS2A, the diode shown in figure 738, copied with the text is shown in the Internet Explorer window, and paste it in simple text editor shown such with a notepad and save with the text file with a model file extension, RS2A model convenient folder set up with the addition of the model files. Now, next job of the PSpice live with the diodes incorporated part of the PSpice model with the editor file with the true with the new with the will be presented with a blank model list with the window open and unsaved library untitled one library for the menu to choose the import from the open file with the dialog box navigated select with the RS2A model file. Click OK. The model list window should now contain the new models shown figure 739. See if the new library is in a user folder. With a name as such as diodes incorporated library, say with the as from file menu you have with the PSpice library one of the part and capable of which you can make the capture part when they make for the capture part of the new library. Create with the capture part command with the in the PSpice with the model editor that describe the method 4 above that you can use the generate part with the command within the capture describe the method 3 that discussed earlier. Making PSpice model from the capture project within an event with the PSpice model with even the generic spice model that cannot be located. You can make your own with the model file. There are two ways depending on the type of the model that you're trying to make. If you need the primitive model device with the diode or P channel with the offset with the transmitter, if you need the component with the model file, that you with the text editor import model with the library described above into an accurate model, you need to be familiar with the model parameters. Is probably the code with the PSpice that understands. This will not be described here, but you can read this in details in PSpice with the reference document with the CREF reference PDF located in Orcad doc folder starting point and also with a located example of the PSpice of the breakout library. Alright, if you need to make a model with a non-primitive part of the integrated circuit with a transformer, for example, you can compose the sub-circuit of the model with a have the existing knowledge of the model parameter of the PSpice code. You simply draw the circuit with the capture with the capture right with the sub-circuit with the model for you, then save it as a PSpice library. Once you have the library file, you can use the model 3 and 4 method above with the capture part with the model attached to it. Attach the layout footprint as desired. Example on how to make it a piece-by model subsequent capture part if it's given here with a transform with a single primary winding secondary center tap secondary similar to the one in figure 7.3 with a transform with example of the piece-by model with a piece-by with a template associated with it. The procedure can specify the inductance for the DC resistance of the winding with a couple between the winding for a specified part that described with the data sheets below. The basic process is described with a capture withdrawal circuit that can simulate with a circuit that will consider the inductors, resistors, coupling, and coefficients of the transformer, and circuit that can simulate with a verified behavior with the correctly simulation of the delete with the heretical ports that are added with the schematic, which will become the 8 pins of the transformer. You have to create with a piece-wise laboratory with a net list of the library for the circuit, with the method 3 and 4 with the generator, the capture part with the library file, with the example we'll use the method 4, so that we can look at the modified with the model prior to the making of the part with the capture part for it. To make a sub-circuit of the model, open the capture and check and achieve the new project for the session with the from files menu. The firm and a new project dialog box, analog, mixed, analog, and digital as shown in figure 740. New project name, creating news with the analog, mixed, analog, digital, PC board, programmable logic working, schematic, location, OK, news, and type of tips and browse. Select the location, new project, use the browse button with the bottom of the dialog box if you plan with more than one model with a good idea with the create with a new folder with the model development. Once you have the models fully developed and tested, you can copy the inch library to normal to capture piece-by library folders. After you're okay with creating a piece-by project, the dialog box 731 display with the create with the base upon with the existing project radio button. Select either the empty object. Empty project or a simple project template with a different templates may be displayed. Show the piece-by project created based on the existing project created blank project. Depending on which of the version you have, whether you're going to do with the example rightly with the reality, really doesn't matter. In the template, you can start and click OK. The project manager will expand with the design DSN icon not already expanded. Double click schematic 1 folder, see figure 42 with the name of the design name, and will become the default number of the piece-by library design name library and file. So 742 shows the project manager view with the design. And the name of the root folder name it became the name of the piece-by part model of the subcircuit. The folder name is totally you want to change the name of the folder. The schematic 1 name of the you finish with the for name you wish for your part. To rename the schematic folder, select the folder by left clicking once and right click with the select rename. Pop it up to change the name of the schematic folder to the name that you really want the part to have. Single winding primary center tap. Secondary, double click with the page 1, display with the schematic page with the figure 742. Delete any of the part described and text provided with the template, dragging the box around on across the part with the highlight template, then hit delete on your keyboard. Put the place for resistor analog library piece-by model associated with them on the schematic page 745. The resistors will be used to simulate with the DC resistance winding dummy load resistor, which you can get the resistor place part with the drop-down list located with the toolbar top of the window frame, or you can get them from the selecting the place part icon on the toolbar with the right with the schematic page. If you use the place part icon presented with the place part dialog box shown 743 analog from the libraries, it will scroll down with the part list, select with the R. Select part R and note that the part analog of the library of the piece-by model with the footprints associated with them is indicated in the piece-by layout with the icons of the part view preview box in the lower right-hand corner of the dialog box. Click OK schematic page with the 4 pages with the place for resistors. See figure 745 for reference. Repeat with the procedure playing with the 3i inductor of the part L with the schematic page with the inductor will show with the primary lead with the other 2 serve with the secondary wind with the inductor will use the define inductance term ratio with the primary with the secondary wind with the place 1 with the K linear part with the analog library with schematic page K and limiter define with the coupling coefficient of the winding place the VSI end part of the schematic so that we can use the operation of the transformer of the VSI and locate with the source library with the finally place with the 0 ground reference on the schematic page place with the ground with the tool with the ground tool select with the 0 source with the place ground with the dialog box shown figure 744. The schematic entry layout uses any of the grounds with a piece of space and simulation that you have now at least one 0 reference ground position. Rename the components wire circle the chain with the value of the components that is known is shown at 745 chain of the reference designator the resistor 1 to RP or 744 shows the place ground dialog box. Now we have 745 the schematic of the linear step of the transformer. Component value of the 10 the double click with the property you want to change the display with the property dialog box into the appropriate value with OK. You can modify the part property to double click with the part with a click on one display with then right click with the edit property from the pop up. The property editor spreadsheet with the pop up is shown 746. And the property listed across an arrow show the piece by reference value of the coupling with the inductor 1 through 6, location X and Y, coordinate source part, and that show the part property editor spreadsheet vertical view. Set up vertically in the columns. You can change with the view by selecting the upper left-hand corner of the shell, highlight with the entire spreadsheet with the right click with it, and then select with the pivot from the pop-up to specify how many items are listed, and give the filter bar with the drop-down lift just above the spreadsheet shell. Display all pertinent properties. Give the current properties for the option located with the top of the lift. Modify the display with the K linear coupling property. Double click with the coupling part with the spring with the spreadsheet. Make sure that either the current property or Orcad price spice filter option is selected. In the inductor 1 cell, type the LP1, whatever you name of the primary coil with the leading with the display button with the locate with the just above the spreadsheet cell. Insert LS1, L2 cell, LS2, and L3 cell. Click the display for both button, both of these parameters. 2 for the inductor 1 and inductor 2, etc. Cell should establish the coils coupled with the transformer. An additional separate coupling with the coefficient difference set of coils. For example, we'll have all three equally coupled together with using singular linear coupling when finished with the code of the spreadsheet. Click the X button in the upper right hand corner of the spreadsheet. Now we need to simulate with the part with the piecewise part with piecewise. For the several type of the simulations you can perform with the piecewise. For example, to perform the time domain analysis for this, we can see the AC waveforms input with the transformer and a load resistor. Test the circuit. We need to set up the simulation profile. Set the simulation profile that actually edit new simulation profile piecewise. Setting the simulation settings dialog box saver 747. Select analyst for the analyst type drop down, and then now you have the analyst type in with the option generics Monte Carlo worst case parameter sweeping temperature, save bias load bias point runtime, saving the starting data after transition option maximum step size, skip the initial transient base calculation output file options, and that's the simulation setting dialog in the dialog box analyst. Select the time dilation transits over the rest of the parameters shown 747, and then click OK. Place the voltage mark with a certain on the circuit to specify with which voltage is applied with a piece by throw over the window. Click the it's a magnifying glass with a V in the button. On the toolbar, place the probe with the wire coming over the VSI with the green mark and the one over the red mark with the wire and the wire going from the secondary wire to the load resistor. Start the simulation process with the run spice with the button, which is like a play button. P-spice run with the simulation with the display with the result of the probe window shown in figure 748 with the voltage curve of the show the transformer functions as a 1 to 2 step-up transformer. Since the output with the red marker curve is twice as high as the input with the green marker curve, the additional test of the frequency response can be performed to validate circuit the model further, and these will not be discussed here. Now you see the your wave generation for the P-Spice probe with the center tap transformer that you've created. Select the circuit model as validated with the build now with the prepare to make with the P-Spice model of the circuit with the begin with the delete with the VSI in so over the load resistor RL and all of the ground references. Add a port to the schematic with a strip of the lead with the transformer. Click with the place port tool with the port both L port in place hierarchy port dialog box shown figure 749. All ports all the port symbols have an identical capture P-Spice of the layout. The only difference in appearance of the schematics of the transformer if in past the devices will also symbolically indicate that the applied signal can go either. Show the place hierarchical parts over the symbol of the ports and library with the name and the part in the graphic box. OK, visual add, remove, and library help. Click direction. Click OK. Place for the 5 ports on the schematic page 2 over the primary and 3 over the secondary. Reposition the connecting label of the ports shown in figure 750. And now you have a hierarchical port of the circuit design. Display the project manual with the window, minimize the schematic pattern page with the selecting the 2C Orcad project name and window menu. Select with the design icon, then create a net list for the tools menu. In creating a net list dialog box 751, the piece by the tab check with the create with the subcircle with the format net list and then descend radio button. The default name will be given to the net list modify the name, path of the name is desired. Make sure the name of the ends with the library file extension. Click OK. You now have the piece-place library file with the one model with the transformer in it. You can use the model 3 and 4 to generate the capture part with the library of the model with the added existing part library. To complete with the example, we use the method 4 so we can take a look at the piece-place model with the generated by the capture. Let's start with the piece-place model editor again. From the file menu, the select open and navigate to the former transformer layer. You you made above. Click the SPRTCT seconds model to display with the model with the editing window showing the 752. And over the model type is a sub CKT or sub circuit, and the name of the library whenever you specify the net list in the CP Splice model editor, and then some property add schematic. Model name, pin number, pin names. Show the browser spreadsheet. That's your P-Splice transformer model generated from the Capture project. Create the netlist dialog box for the name of the part with the schematic folder, name of the capture of the design C742. With the add this point, you can modify the part to add specify the requirements careful over the capture part on the modeling, editing, if any of the completed generated with the capture part described above with the method 3 and 4. Notice is shown on 752 with the pin name and then order with the capture part with the indicate with the pin property of the spreadsheet with the P-Splice for the template, indicate with the part property for the spreadsheet with the must match pin's name and then order with the P-Splice model with exactly in simulation will or simulation will fail with the implementation for the name of the part with the spreadsheet with the must also match the model name P-Splice model file with the final part with the pins numbers of the must match with the pin pad stack normal numbers and layout, which is governed in part of the diode data sheet within the part of the pin number the letter instead of the number A for anoid over the diode, then pad and the layout must be named accordingly with the auto electric circuit order will fail. Adding P-Splice templates model with the pre-existing capture parts rather than use the method 3 or 4, making the new part with the transform P-Splice library. But they might wonder we don't need to add the P-Splice model that the transformer was already created in the first example from method 1, which due to the older Orcad, this and somewhat with a challenging risk, and you have it done with the X uppercase at reference description percentage A, B, and Y, the voltage current, ground percentage at the model parameters, and at negative post IO level and equals to IO level MAT maximum DL at maximum Monty mixed DL. Fortunately, it's a simpler matter with version 10.5. In this example, we see how they add the existing P-Splice model with the existing capture part of the demo version that does not allow for doing this part that have more than 2 leads. Should be adding a basic capture capacitor model to one of the capture capacitor part that does not have the model associated with it. If you recall from Chapter 2, we use the basic capacitor part CAP with the capture discrete OL library. This does not have the layout footprint with the P-Splice model associated with it. We'll add the P-Splice model then to part now with the location basic P-Splice capacitor model that will use the P-Splice breakout library. To add P-Splice model with the existing capture part, start with the capture class, select open library, select with the part that you want to add with the P-Splice model, use the discrete O library for the example, find the capacitor CA or CPAP, capture the library part with the manager, click with the part icon, select with the right click, and then select associate P-Splice model from the pop-up. Add import model wizard dialog box 753 browse button in the upper right hand corner to find the P-Splice model that you are associated with the captured part. Show the model import wizard select with the library picking the matching model C break matching models and symbol. View model text and back and next and cancel and OK. The wizard automatically show the P-Splice live with a list of all of the model matching model with a window with a head with the same number of pins captured part. You select with the part library manager. Select C break model, then click next. The wizard then display with the pin patching tool shown on the 754. This is when you collect the P-spin model pin with a capture print part pin. Select finish when the pins are matched, and the show the model pin part symbol pins. Information box shown figure 755 should display indicating the capacitor now has P-Splice model attached to it. P-Splice model imported. P-Splice model C break attached successfully to symbol capacitor. Instruction capture symbols. There are 4 different types of symbol to capture power ground symbols with the off-page connectors, hierarchical ports, and 4 title blocks. To make a new power symbol, open with the cap symbol, template library, select with the library icon under library folder, the design new with the new symbol, the property dialog box, figure 756, and the name, select with the appropriate radio button symbol, the type of the group box, OK, with the part editing window with the drawing toolbar, with the display with the graphic tools, make the symbol, close editing window, and save the symbol, and save the close the library. New symbol, the part of the name and the symbol, the type of the power off page, connect your hierarchical prototype of the object, locate and cancel the making of the new power symbol. Constrict method of the power symbol, the alpha page, connect with the hierarchical ports, similarly with all their own functionality, but the title block is different from the other three. There are two types of the title block, the default with the optional, with every new project have the default tile blocks, which can specify that each of the project goes to option, design, template, on schematic page menu. You can also add an optional title block by going to play with the title block on the schematic page menu. Title blocks are located in a capture symmetry library where you can construct with the title block, save them with others, and make your own library and power supply with the title blocks, etc. To make a new title block, open and make with a new capture library. So with the library icon, design the menu with a new symbol, add new symbol of property dialog box, select the title box, click OK. Just save the power symbol. You will be able to present in part editing window with the graphic tools and with the construct with the new box, construct with the box figure 757. Show example of the parts and the text tool with the add title with the headers to enter the text that can be mounted with the schematic page with a double click with the free area within the window with the display with the user property dialog box, and click with the new button with the create with the new text object with the new file with the requirement that you can either leave the value field empty or enter a default value. Click OK to make the object field visible, and select with the parts property option menu. Click the display button. You the property dialog box with the field interest. After you have saved the block, you can add it to any schematic page. This completes the chapter on making capture parts and symbols. Chapter 8: Making and editing layout footprints.